Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1548 of our daily content grind. Welcome back to the toy store life. Do y'all want to hear about one of the most frustrating collections I have ever had to research in my career here at the toy shop? Too bad, you clicked on the video, that's what we're talking about today. So when it comes to collections, pretty much everyone has it down by now. We have it posted on our Facebook and our website of like what we really expect you to do. You know, because you need to cooperate with your local toy store and try to do things according to their policy if you want a good chance of your collection getting sold to them. So that being said, this week I had to deal with a woman of, let's say, an advanced age. She was looking to sell off a bunch of the toys she was taking care of for her son, who is now well into his adult years, and they are moving soon, so they just need to clear things out. You know, okay, that's all well and good. That's fine. That's fine. This is a woman who called like 3 weeks ago announcing that she was going to do this, but over the phone, she's very quick to speak, meaning that I don't have time to give her the rundown of, well, if you have something that you would like to sell us, then you need to send us photos of what you have. That way we can evaluate it, ahead of time. That way you don't have to lug everything down just in case it's a collection we're not interested in. No, she's like bang, 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 to the point, hang up. And when 3 weeks go by on someone saying like, oh yeah, I'm going to bring you this to sell, I pretty much write them off completely. Like at that point, I kind of decided, like, you really don't want to sell this, do you? Or else you would have been back in touch by now. I had one guy offering like literally over 1,000 wrestling figures. And I just told him, yeah, just send photos of everything you got. We're interested in all of it, but we need to see all of it first. Guy said he had title belts, said he had WWE figures, vintage WCW. And then he sent me his AEW toys, which are like 200 sealed AEW figures. Okay, cool, great start. I replied to him, like, please keep sending. We want to see all this. And then he stopped. Haven't heard of him in over a month. So I don't know. It seems to me like if you want something to sell, if you want to actually sell a collection, you need to put just like a little bit of effort in yourself, you know? So usually when someone blows me off for that long, I kind of think, well, this is a done deal. Well, no. This week she calls again, and she's still just as quick over the phone. I have these old Star Wars toys. They're from my son. I want to bring them in. Can I bring them in? Okay, bye. Okay. And then she drops this on me. She drops this lovely stack of toys on me. So, this is a lot. There's a lot of random things. There's a scattering here. But overall, it's like over 100 figures. And when she brought this in, she had a number in mind that she wanted to get for all of it. And she really did expect me to give her that money so she could leave that day with the cash. And here's the problem. Number one, we do it all by appointment because we don't keep that much cash on hand at any given point. It's a security concern. We don't want to take the chance that we get robbed and like half of our available cash is located in our drawers at the time. But yeah, so that was never going to happen. And it's almost as if it felt like she expected me to know how much it was worth and if it was worth the money she was asking for without me doing any kind of research. I know I have an absurd amount of toy knowledge in my head. In any other industry besides vintage toy shop and YouTube, it is basically useless knowledge. That said, don't do that to your local toy store. Do not bring them, like a massive collection. Do not bring them over 100 figures and go, will you give me this much for it? No, no, because there's no way I could know exactly what they're worth right now. I have to research. I have to do the actual figures here and figure out exactly what money I am expecting to get from these on sales, and then I'll tell you how much I'm willing to pay you for them. I don't know why. Do not do that to your local toy store. If you have a collection to sell, call ahead, figure out their policies first, but be prepared to send photos of what you have to sell in a way that shows the condition and the completion of each piece that you're trying to sell. That is very important to do. You need to be able to put forth at least that much effort toward getting your toys collection sold. It's very few places anymore that will just let you bring in a pile and they will just buy it on the spot. They need to do the research because these days the toy values fluctuate wildly, especially with the stuff this woman had. A lot of it was from early 80s. A lot of it was like 40-year-old toys, or some even farther back than that. I mean, it's kind of crazy what is in this pile. It took like half an hour or so to just convince her that she needed to leave the collection with us, and then we would get back to her once we were done evaluating it. That way we had some way of just like, doing our job. But eventually she did. We took photos of everything. We cataloged everything. She took a photo of me just in case I'm a crook. So there's that. Oh, and evaluating a collection like this at this size while I'm the only one working the shop, it's a great thing, by the way. This took up all my free time for like 2 days in this store. Like every moment I wasn't dealing with customers, I was pricing out all of these toys. So let's actually show you what we got, okay? And we'll get to why it got so frustrating in a bit. Now, there are Transformers in it, vintage G1 Transformers, which I am always happy to see in a lot like this. It's been a hot minute since anyone sold us anything vintage G1. I'm going to be very happy to put it in the shelves. That said, it's Constructicons with no extra parts, which means they're like $10 a pop. And the Astro Train I thought would actually be a pretty good get. It's in really nice shape, even though it's missing its rifle and stickers. Plastic's still white. The legs still hold up. My reissue Astro Train doesn't even have legs that stay extended. $25. As it turns out, when you've been reissued like 3 times, you don't really have a whole lot of demand with collectors anymore. A lot of people had their need for an Astro Train sated long ago. Oh, also the Trailbreaker is missing the canopy. I might track that down and look for it. But to this point, yeah, at least it's some G1 stuff. There was a Spectro in there. It's like a third of a Reflector, but it's a knockoff, so I can't put it out. There was a knockoff Browning in there, too. It was missing a leg and the hands and the bullets. But, that's just a knockoff, so at least I don't have to be worried about that. The interesting thing was the Erector set, because it's based off of Max Steel from RoboForce. So when I was still doing the Glyos thing, I used to be friends with John, who was the guy in charge of Toyfinity. And I loved the RoboForce figures that he was doing. And he actually did own the actual license to RoboForce before he sold it to Nacelle, who then proceeded to do horrible action figures with them. But this is a fascinating little thing because it's a very rare example of 2 toy companies, or 2 toy brands rather, crossing over, in an age where that wasn't really a thing. So it's an interesting Erector set to have, at least. We don't have anything like that in store, so it's a talking point. People will notice it. I should mention, I'm talking about these as if we have bought this collection. Just to be fair here, as of this recording, no, we do not actually possess these yet. I finished the evaluation today, handed the information over to the boss. He's going to get in touch with the lady, and if she agrees to whatever bidding he likes to do, then these will stay here and we'll get them out on the floor. And I will have even more work with them to do. But for now, yeah, it's a curiosity. It's a curiosity. And it's such a random scattering of things, too. So these just seem like typical toy cars. No, this is from a line called Rough Riders. Rough Riders 4x4, to be specific. These are little battery operated driving cars. They're not pullback. They're not just like Hot Wheels, free spinning wheels. No, motorized, which was pretty rare back then. They're surprisingly valuable for something that comes in a very, very cheap plastic storage container and just kind of look like typical toy army trucks. I was shocked that these things go for like $40 a pop. Like, that was weird. And those were not the easiest things to investigate, by the way. Oh, but we will get there. Oh my God, we will get there. We will get there. All right, so the big thing in this was Star Wars toys. She had a bunch of vintage Kenner Star Wars, which, you know what, we have a lot of demand for. I've got a lot of people coming in here asking for it, but we've never had a chance to get a good collection of them. Well, this woman actually did have a decent collection of them. In fact, quite a few of them still had their accessory bits. Those are the really hard things to find, and those are the things that make a lot of these toys especially valuable. So you would think with these two nice collector cases coming in, and by the way, I do not think a vintage toy store is actually allowed to sell Kenner Star Wars toys unless you actually have that Darth Vader storage device. It's everywhere. It's just like the thing that every vintage store is going to have at some point. If we buy this collection, it will be our turn with said storage device. But you would think she's bringing in some of this primarily old Star Wars toys. You'd think these would be filled to the brim with those, right? Nope. Nope. They're filled with things like this. Just random action figures that her son had when he was a kid, and now she's just pawning off. So here you see some Star Wars motion picture toys that are worth basically nothing. They are very, very inexpensive because Star Trek the Motion Picture is a very dull movie. But that said, to the left are the original Tron action figures. So, you've got you got Tron and Flynn there. You've got CERN, I want to say. I can't remember the villain's name. And the other guy in the middle who is named Red Warrior because we were very original back then. These go for surprisingly high dollars. Like, even without their identity discs, like some of the ones in the shot, I think Flynn and Tron go for like $50 a piece, even without their identity discs, which is kind of crazy to me. But still, like, I'm not going to argue it. I'm not going to argue it. And then the lot just gets more interesting and more weird as it goes on. Just random things are thrown in. There's a couple of Superman toys and a Spider-Man toy that I believe the Mego toy company did. They're called Pocket Heroes. Because that was the idea, was that they were small enough to fit in a kid's pocket and take wherever they went. And they all have a very interesting way of positioning their right arm, which I will let you Google for yourself, because I ain't going to show it to you on YouTube. So there's a few of those in there. A few things that were super hard to actually investigate. There was like a pair of toys of Lone Ranger and Tonto, but each one had one pistol. So I had to figure out how much they go for when they only have one pistol. Could not find an example, had to just take a wild guess. And then there was a figure that was very, very similar, but it was from a different maker, even though most everything about it was similarly designed. And that took forever to track down. It's one of those where you take a photo of it for eBay and just kind of see if it has a good guess. Same didn't come close. I eventually tracked it down. It's from Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. It is specifically the Sundance Kid. The Sundance Kid, even without a gun accessory, goes for like $60. So amidst all this like weird like junk, like the Star Trek figures, there were these weird little nuggets of gold mixed in. You know, like with this shot, you have basically like a Venn diagram of all the stuff that I had to deal with this collection. The bottom row is just the junk. Those are Fisher-Price Adventure people. There's some nostalgia for them, but not a whole lot. They were a preschool kind of toy back then. They don't go for much of anything. You know, unless you have some like really rare variants of some of them, it's like $10 a pop. Not really concerned about those. The Popeye figures in the middle, I could not figure out. Like, in all of my infinitely useless knowledge of toys and all of my Google foo and everything that I can do to actually track down random toys, you're talking to the guy who spent 3 years trying to fish out one figure from a German toy line for Scott McNeil to sign. And I did it. I did it. I can't figure out what these are. Now, I figured out, okay, so there's a copyright stamp on them. I have the name of the toy company. I have that. I have the year they came out. I can't find any examples on the internet of them, though. And then there's that top row. Oh, that top row. So, yeah, I think these are Mego as well, if I remember right. I don't remember offhand. The point is, these came out in 1980. Okay, so we're talking 45-year-old, soon to be 46-year-old toys here. Pretty astonishing. Dracula still has his cape after all that time. Now, throughout these Universal monsters, guess what? The most valuable ones are the Mummy and the Creature from the Black Lagoon. Not the more popular Frankenstein and not the more popular Dracula. Because those two would have been produced in higher numbers because of their popularity, thus they are easier to find. So the Creature from the Black Lagoon was $80. When I looked it up, in that condition, $80. It is rare. And just as I thought, like, it was like just crazy that something from this like a random Universal Monsters toy line ended up being so valuable, I search for the Mummy. And the Mummy sells for $120. And there's a glow-in-the-dark version of the Mummy too, like that is a thing, but it's not even that version. You don't even need to have that version. Just the normal one goes for that crazy amount. So this is what this collection had me doing, just bopping back and forth between all of these weird mystery figures and these crazy amounts mixed in with these crazy just junk toys. You know, and it just goes on here. There's a couple random G.I. Joes, including a version 1 Snake Eyes. It's like $60 even without parts. You know, there was, you know, the knockoffs, like I said, that I had to clear out. Just really weird stuff. No, like I said, the bulk of it was vintage Star Wars. That wasn't put into the nice collector cases that she brought in. Those were bundled up and in a pile in a Publix bag. So I did what I could to sort them out and better protect them with what I had available in the store. And all into her word, she had a lot of the accessory parts. They were in the Darth Vader thing, because Darth Vader's little, you know, storage unit has a little flap and a little container for just accessory parts to dump in. So yeah, like that was the bulk of it. These are 60 figures in all, and I had to try and match up every figure with every accessory, knowing full well a lot of these accessories looks very similar and have to go to just the right version of each character in order to figure out the exact pricing and what we need to be offering for this collection. So there, I'll put it this way, I relearned how much nuance there was to Star Wars vintage toys. I do know some things, right? I know that there's a small-headed Han Solo and a big-headed Han Solo, and the small head is worth a lot more. I know that there's a Luke Skywalker with brown hair that's worth a lot more than the common one with yellow hair. You know, but there were nuances that I had no idea. Oh my God, I learned so many more of these variations. Accessories have minor variations amongst them that tell you which factory run each one was a part of, and somehow Star Wars collectors figured this stuff out. They already did the detective work to figure out where and when all this happened. Um, you had some fun things. So there's little things like Darth Vader's lightsaber accessory, the one that like extends out from the forearm. If the tab, you push it out with like a little tab that sticks out underneath his arm, and if that tab has a pair of letters molded in, it's a far rarer version of Darth Vader. But most of them are just blank. Mars happened to be blank, by the way. No super rare variants in any of this. I checked, and that was a little bit disappointing. But you'll see here, like you can look, you have the accessory parts, you have the vinyl. Like if the character had like a cape or a robe, it was included here. The funny one was Yoda didn't have his robe, but he had his belt. And I'm very like, how did you lose the robe, but you still had the belt? Turns out he didn't lose the robe. The robe got put on the Ugnaught in the bottom right corner of this photo, and the Ugnaughts apron was just strewn about. At first, a woman found that, and it's like, I wonder how that, what is that? How did that get in there? It's almost like she was going to take it and throw it away. I'm like, no, just leave it just in case it goes to somebody. Really glad I did, because Yoda there's complete, and the Ugnaught is also complete. The Jawa is complete, even with his tiny little blaster. Leia is complete with her blaster and her jacket. That makes her like $100. The Leia, because she's in really good shape, no paint wear on the hair or anything, that is $100 piece. Kind of crazy. It's because her gun is so small and so easy to lose. But learning nuances as I go, learning those little variations that make the world of difference amongst Star Wars collectors. You see in there like R5D4. For starters, I found out his head is supposed to click. Did not know that before. Ours still does, so there's that. I say ours, we haven't bought it yet. But I will invite you to look at this man's chest. So it's probably hard to see on your screen, especially if you're watching on a phone. At the top of his chest, on either side of his sticker, there are two empty rectangles, just black outline rectangles. And that's the most common way to find it. In that condition with an age sticker, it's like $25, R5D4, not the biggest of demands. However, if one of those rectangles is filled in with a red bar, $600. Because it's an extremely rare but known to the fandom variant. So this was my last 2 days. Was learning about all these weird nuances amongst all of these Star Wars toys and making sure we didn't have any like super crazy rares in here that would make this lot completely unaffordable if we did. This was learning a lot of the variations. This was figuring out a lot of websites that help you identify what gun goes to who, because that was a trip to figure out. And then just trying, and then just doing the usual eBay searching just to figure out like exact versions, like what is the exact, like how do I quantify this? And Star Wars toys, vintage ones, will vary wildly in sales price sometimes, which makes it even more fun. So this has been my last 2 days. My last 2 days has just been evaluating the most random collection we've ever been brought, and then figuring out if it's something that we can even do anything with. That's another reason why you send photos first, because it might be a collection the shop isn't interested in or doesn't think it can make money off of. When I look at these, it's still over in the counter to my left. If I look at these, I look at that and go, the vintage Transformers, no problem. The high demand of the vintage Star Wars, no problem. The Max Steel, that's a concern. It's a fascinating piece. It actually isn't that expensive. There's that. The Tron thing, because the movie came out, is still going to have some like heat to it, even though the movie bombed. So that actually might pan out. Those might sell too. But I'm looking at things like the Rough Riders, thinking like, when has anyone ever asked for Rough Riders? When has anyone ever asked me for these weird little rolling vehicle toys? And then it's like oddities. It'll be hard to sell too. So now it's just a debate of whether or not it's going to be worth the amount that we might have to spend to get it. So we're not done with this one. Goody me. But that has been what the last 2 days of my life has been. That has been a lot of research. That has been a lot of learning and realizing that there is no fan more picky about collectibles than a Star Wars fan. I thought it was Funko Pop collectors. Nope. There are people who are only going to want the 3rd out of 6 revisions of the standard Rebel blaster for their Han Solo, who has the small head instead of the big head, to recreate a specific version that was only sold in Italy or something. Craziness like that. But, hey, as long as they're enjoying their collection, right? I can't really argue with them at that point. I don't know. That's the Toy Store life.
Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.